Debuting in Medarot 8, this model is a herald of both people that are favorites of the swimsuit design and also favorites of the all-rounder kind of combat style. It is SCS00 Swimmermate, with a kit of radar sight, rifle, stat cleanse, biped legs, and the leg ability of Mariner, which grants S rank on aquatic terrain, in addition to the leg standard matches. Now, Swimmermate is a model that's available in the permanent pool as a spotlight, which means she is available at pretty much any time in any banner you pull from, and this is good for a number of reasons. The first of which is she has a very wide variety of skills she brings to the table, none of which actually stand in the way of one another, making her a very nicely and well-rounded kind of model that anyone can use very easily and essentially right out of the box, no less. Radar Sight is a support-based skill that, once activated, will boost the success rate of herself and all allies by about 50% or so, making it more likely that hits will land or hits will be critical hits on top of that. As an added bonus, Radar Sight will also remove any stealth or conceal effects of the enemy side, so that pesky enemy using conceal to negate your pierce damage or anything of the like is now no more, or that enemy that likes to hide in the shadows with stealth can still easily be found and punished just for wasting their turn. Rifle, and Swimmermate's only form of actual combat, is a conventional shooting skill which you generally can't ever go wrong with using for its incredible sense of balance and power. So while it's not overly powerful, it is a very well-rounded skill that you really can't ever go wrong with using, especially as a skill that is, even though it may not be super common for females, is something that is very easily flexible anywhere. Stat Cleanse, and the third variant of the skills that Swimmermate brings to the table, is a healing-based skill that, once used, will cleanse any negative ailments of herself and all allies on her side of the field, and in addition, also render them immune to negative ailments a certain number of hits. Now, despite the nerf of Stat Cleanse in fairly recent with the 3.2 patch, Stat Cleanse is still a very invaluable skill that pretty much any competitive meta team really can't afford to go without. And the only real time you don't use Stat Cleanse is if you know for a fact that the enemy will not be using negative ailments against you. As mentioned, Swimmermate is a very well-rounded and versatile model that fits a lot of roles, not just from a supporter role, but also as a supportive auxiliary shooter role on top of that. Now, as expected for females though, her armor pool is actually on the lower end, which will make her a little easier to break, with a head HP of about 2700, her right arm at about 2449, her left arm, the life ring, at about 2349, and her legs at 3249 means that she has a very low HP pool, so she wants to be particularly careful when fighting anyone at pretty much any range. That can be either up close and personal or from afar. On the topic of her leg stats, she is packing a lot of really nice stats that are kind of in that middle sweet ground of where you want to be. So not overly strong or fast or tanky, but also not notably terrible either. A mobility of 647 is kind of in that lower end cusp of where you'd want a biped leg to be, but with the kind of all-roundedness that Swimmermate brings to the table, this is kind of forgivable to a point as long as you can comp it. An evade of 991 isn't too shabby, as generally you want to stay around the thousands or higher, but Swimmermate honestly does kind of take this in stride given the flippers attached to her legs. A melee resist of 718 isn't super great, but also not terrible either. Just be careful when fighting anyone that likes to get up close and personal. But a shoot resist of 1264 is very, very good though, as this means she can definitely hold her own while taking pot shots from afar, and even return a few of her own even if her base power isn't super strong. The only real drawback here, aside from the low mobility and melee resist, is also the fact that she can also only support one heavy part with her legs. But if you choose to build around this can be very easily worked around. That being said, as a pure set score, I do have to rate Swimmermate very highly at a 7 out of 10. Even if she may be particularly squishy and have rather paper armor, and even her rifle may not be super strong, she is packing a lot of very good skills as a very diverse supporter role. Between Radar Sight and Stat Cleanse, you can very easily stack both bonuses on top of themselves without one getting in the way of the other. And her legs actually are, even if they have relatively low stats to a point, it makes up for it for the fact that she also is one of the few biped legs with the Mariner ability, which grants S rank on aquatic terrain. And it's for this reason that even the low stats and are moderately forgivable to a point, as you can make very good use of these legs even when everyone else is struggling on that wet terrain. For these very same reasons, as mixed parts, I do have to rate Swimmermate as mixed parts at an 8 out of 10. Very solid rolls, very good skills, and even the leg ability is very good in the rare situation that you find yourself in need of fighting on aquatic terrain. Radar Sight and Stat Cleanse again are stackable, so you can use one on top of the other with no overlap. And even if you decide to switch the rifle arm out for something else, or even make use of just the Stat Cleanse, Swimmermate is a model that is very easily obtained, and for this very same reason is a very good beginner-friendly model.